Nets are 9-6 since trading for James Harden. But Jake, do you think the Nets are the real threats to LeBron and the Lakers to win it all?
Well, Evan, in my opinion, you have to be stupid to say the Nets are not a real threat to the Lakers. They have the three best ISO players in the game right now: Harden, KD, Kyrie. And the questions coming in to the big three is, will one of the players be able to take a step back, take a third role, play off ball? And that question has been answered. James Harden has taken that role and ran with it. He's leading the league in assists. And I think they're the favorites to come out of the East based on talent alone. And I think they're a tough matchup for the Lakers. The Lakers guards are having trouble defensively. Like Schroeder, KCP are not the best defenders. Kyrie and Harden are going to have their way with those guards. And you already know KD is going to get his own. So my only questions come on the defensive end, and actually those start with their coach, Steve Nash. It really doesn't seem like he has control of this team. He's leaving the decisions up to the players mostly, and I think that's a bad idea. I don't think this should be a player-ran team. I think he needs to take authority, load up some defensive schemes, get going. But I think they're easy favorites to come out of the East, no question.
Jake, I don't think they're favorites to come out of the East, and I feel like you made my argument for me. Number one, Steve Nash, an inexperienced coach. I look around the East, I look at Brad Stevens in Boston. I look at Doc Rivers in Philadelphia. Two really great, established, top 10 coaches. Top 5 maybe even. But the main question for me is on that defensive end. Jake, I can make the case, and you can't argue it, that the Nets are the 8th best team in the NBA. So let's say they're the number 1 offense, which I think is entirely possible. But let's also say they're the number 30 defense. So best offense, worst defense. And they have been the worst defense since they traded for James Harden. If we split the difference, that'd mean they're like the 15th best team. But let's weight offense so it's more important than defense. Let's bring them up. Let's say it's 2-1. Let's make them the 8th best team. So they're the 8th best team. I don't see how you can make an argument for them as the 2nd best team or the 3rd best team when you have on half the side of the court defense. You are literally the worst team in the NBA. And don't tell me, oh, all you need is offense. Because, Jake, the Mavericks had the highest offensive rating in the history of the league last year. And they lost in the first round. So I don't see it with the Nets. To me, they're not the favorites to come out of the East.
All right, let me start where you started, talking about the head coaching situation. Steve Nash, obviously an inexperienced coach. Why don't you look to the left of his seat, Evan? Who is sitting next to him? What coach is sitting next to him?
Oh, is it Nate McMillan?
It's not Nate McMillan.
Oh, Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni.
It's Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni has coached some of the most prestigious teams in the league. Coached Steve Nash with the Phoenix Suns, 7 seconds or less offense. Clearly, he's a good coach, but also he's a coach that's all about offense, right? And to be honest, I don't think that's a bad place for the Nets. I think if they fully embrace this offense only and outscoring their teams, I think it's going to be very difficult for a team to beat them in a 7-game series. I don't see the Bucks beating them in a 7-game series. The Bucks don't have enough on offense even. Giannis is going to get his own. You know, who else do they have? Chris Middleton. I mean, yeah, he'll get his buckets. Drew Holiday. It's not enough to beat Kyrie, Harden, and Durant, just in a pure shootout. The Bucks are obviously the better defensive team with reigning Defensive Player of the Year Giannis. But you have to remember, KD has also made a all-defensive team, right? So he's no bum of a defender. And the points that they're giving up recently, like the huge 140-point games, have been without KD on the floor, giving up careers high to like Jeremy Grant and other players like, I don't know, who was the other guy who dropped 40? I don't know. Everyone's dropping 40 on the Nets. Regardless, that's kind of hurting my case, but regardless.
Yes,
if the Nets fully embrace their offense, no team is going to beat them 4 times out of a 7-game series. No team is going to consistently score 140 like the Nets can consistently score 140. It's not happening. That's why I think the Nets are the best, because the Mavericks, sure, they had the highest rated offense of all time, and the Nets are just miles better than that. Now picture this. The Nets bring in a paint presence such as Drummond. Their defensive rating is skyrocketing, and their offense isn't taking a hit either because everyone spaces the floor fine. So how are you going to tell me a team like the Bucks or the Sixers can take down a big three with a huge paint presence. It's not happening, especially with a seasoned coach on the sideline like D'Antoni. It's not going to happen. That's why
Okay.
they're the favorites to come out of the East. On top of that, like I mentioned, they match up great with the Lakers, and I don't think the Lakers can put up 144 times, but we'll see.
So, Jake, you mentioned Mike D'Antoni on the sideline. Number one, let's remember, he was fired last year for a reason. His teams, throughout his tenure in Houston, were not good enough defensively. Because, Jake, as we've seen, I don't care if you're the best offense in the history of basketball. If you can't defend, then you can't win a title. You look at the last 10 years. The worst defensive team to win a championship last 10 years was the Warriors. They ranked 16th in defense. Not bottom 5, not 30th like the Nets are going to be. So you mentioned that the Bucks or the Sixers don't have enough offense to beat the Nets. Well, Jake, it's real easy to have offense when you're playing against the Nets because they will let you score. We saw the kind of effort DeAndre Jordan was putting forth a few nights ago, just giving up in the middle of the play. And, Jake, they're not going to be able to acquire a quality defensive big or just a quality player in general at the deadline. They have no draft picks. They have no assets besides their big three, so I don't know how they're going to get any better.
All right, another point that I want to make. You have to realize, Evan, the Nets' big three has only been playing together for about 10 games, all three on the court. So this missing rotations and this poor defense, it may not stay at 30, okay? They may get to 20, could get into the teens. And if they get into the teens, even 19, if they get to 20, no other team has a shot at beating them. Come playoff time, no team's beating them 4 times if they're the 20th defensive rated team. So if they can get it higher than that, with chemistry, with time, with coaching, it's going to be a nightmare for other teams. So, I don't know. I think all their problems can be solved over time just by learning the ropes, getting to know the players they're playing with, and relying on their coaches to set up a defensive program that'll help them come successful or be successful come playoff time.
But Jake, who are those coaches that are going to set forth a quote-unquote defensive program? Steve Nash wasn't much of a defender in his career. Mike D'Antoni was all offense, no defense. So who's the coach that's going to set up that quote-unquote defensive program?
See, that's a good question, Evan. I'm gonna be honest, but so just I want to hear from you. Who are the 7 teams better than the Nets?
Okay. Well, just
'Cause
using that.
you're using numbers, but I want to know what teams.
Just
Like,
using
I
that
want names of teams.
straightforward, very simple, undeniable math, we see that they're the 8th best. I think the Sixers are better, the Lakers are better, the Clippers are better, the Jazz, the Celtics.
Jazz. So you named 5 teams just now.
I think the Suns are in that discussion, although I think it's close.
The discussion. Here we go.
Now, I'm not a big fan
Look.
of the Bucks come playoff time, so I'd probably put the Nets as probably the 6th or 7th best team, and to me, that's not very threatening for the King and the Lakers, who are going to repeat.
All right. If you could choose one of any of the big 3 players and take it off that team, and they're still at least the 8th best team in the league. Kyrie Harden, you want to take KD off? Kyrie Harden, that's a 8th best team in the league. That's an insane duo. Harden, KD, even better. So I don't understand how you can say all 3 are 8 when even 2 of them would be an 8 AC team.
Well, Jake, this
Or
goes
sorry,
back to my
8 team in the league.
this goes back to my problem with the Harden trade. You have 3 ISO players. There's no point of having 3 ISO players because it's just one guy's going to dribble, shoot with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and they're just going to rotate. That doesn't do you any good. You need complementary pieces. You need Jarrett Allen. You need Karis LeVert. You need guys that can play defense. And that's why I don't like the Harden trade for them, because I don't see the point in having a third big-time guy if it's just going to be dribble, shoot with 5 seconds left on the clock.
You do realize that guy they traded for, James Harden, is now leading the league in assists, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's nice and all, but
He's not playing like a dribble guy this year. But that doesn't mean he can't go and get you a bucket at any given time. He can't drop 30. You can't double. Generally, KD, Harden have seen double teams on like almost every game in their career. So now you bring 3 guys together that consistently see double teams, and now you can't double team any of them because that leaves someone vulnerable, someone on the defensive end. So this opens up so many more opportunities for the Nets. And you have a facilitator in Harden who can run the point or the shooting guard, and he can defend the post if they want to bring KD out, if they want to go small. I mean, Harden's a great fit for them. Now they really just need to build chemistry, and I want to see them be able to defend guys like Giannis or LeBron. But like I said, I think that's going to come with time.
Yeah, good luck with that, and also good luck having James Harden be a post defender. Now, Jake, I'll grant you this: if they played with two basketballs on the court at one time, if the NBA just changed its rules to allow two balls on the court at one time, I would say the Nets are contenders. But they only allow one. You have three ESO players. You don't need all of them. You need more defense. That's why I don't see the Nets being a title contender against the Los Angeles Lakers.